about to fall. Have you guys gotten that impression anywhere that Ukraine's about to fall?
Well, I don't know that it's about to fall, but it's in trouble, and I get the impression that the Poles are hedging their bet. And remember that the Poles have a lot at stake. And by the way, being from the most Polish city in the world, I want to say I have tremendous affinity and affection for the Polish people. And by that I mean Chicago. They have a lot at stake here. They had wanted to support Ukraine more than the American government allowed them to in the beginning. They have done more than other nations have done, both in terms of arms and refugees and threats and standing up. And they, as a NATO skeptic, I got to hand it to the Poles that they are the first to step up and spend as much money relative to their national income as they have in terms of defending themselves and defending Europe. So good for them. They speak with a lot of credibility. But given that they threw in with Ukraine hard and early, I think there are a lot of political minds in Poland that are worried that if Ukraine does fall, there's political blowback there that does not reflect well on the effectiveness of the government. So it's not just a matter that Polish politicians fear that a Ukrainian collapse is around the corner, but there's more at stake for the typical Polish politician than there is for most other politicians in Europe.
Okay, so Michael Vass, let me tie this back into Epstein. Like, how does, if Poland were to collapse, and there's a lot of political, and that's a lot of political blowback on if Ukraine is to collapse, and there's a lot of political blowback on Poland, how does that even tie into to Epstein being a Russian operative, an operative for Russia? Like, how does that even tie in? Do you see that connection? What's the prime minister thinking?
Kind of, but it's convoluted.
Yeah.
Many countries, and this is not new news. Epstein was an asset for several intelligence agencies around the world. Which ones exactly, and which one was in charge of? Was he a double agent, triple agent? Was he working for everybody or just a few people? We don't know. But
true definition of a freelancer. Back to our earlier conversation.
Exactly.
And most governments had knowledge of what he was doing for many reasons. And they were willing to turn a blind eye because he was able to get them access to information that no one else could because of blackmail on what they were actually doing. So Poland says this because it gives their leaders, because yes, Epstein was connected to their world leaders, the UK, Europe, I don't care which country. If they were someone super powerful, if they were powerful at the top of industry or politics, they were somehow connected to Epstein. They've met him. They may have visited the island. They definitely met him somewhere. They were talking to him.
Yeah.
That's just the nature of people at that level. The billionaires, the 10, 12 billionaires of the world. Yeah, everybody's trying to meet them. So that's one thing. So that gives them a little bit of a wall, a cushion. So when someone gets found in the Polish government that was connected to Epstein, they've already established a fire break there, said, well, that's because of the Russians. This is evil. And they can ignore that. To go further, now we're talking about the Ukraine. Ukraine's already losing the war. They've been losing the war since the day the war started. It is a war of attrition, and Ukraine cannot keep up with Russia, which is why Russia continues to delay and continue, because eventually they will win. Ukraine cannot win this, no matter how many countries say we're going to help you out. If they're not actively fighting, they're going to lose. It's a war of attrition. That's it. So Poland, recognizing that, having been part of the Soviet Union before, they instantly, as soon as it started, they said, build up the walls, get the guns loaded. Where eventually, unless someone stops this beforehand, Russia will win and then they'll keep coming, and they're coming for Poland next.
Uh-huh.
So they knew that.
Yeah. All right. Mike, just I believe Mike T has another meeting coming up, and I just want to say thanks for coming on. I don't want to hold you over. So it was great pinch hitting tonight, and
I appreciate that. Thank you. And just to tie up, I want to support what Vass was just saying. You know, from the political angle, they need to build up their anti-Russian cred, right? If they want to stay in power, they can't afford to have Ukraine fall, the Russians on their doorstep, and looking like they're okay with this, right? They need to do everything they can to build up their anti-Russian cred, and this has fallen into their lap. I'm no fan of politicizing the prosecution process, and I have not seen the data, you know, the evidence. I personally, you know, I couldn't begin to guess whether this is credible, that it's likely that there's probable cause to pursue a prosecution or not. Right. But it certainly smacks of politicization, but you get why, right? So, you know, we all do. Thank you, Charles. It's been a great joy to be with you guys. I'm sorry that it's under the circumstances that Joe couldn't make it, and you just needed anybody who's been a libertarian and been from Florida, and I was the only guy you could think of. But I'm glad that I'm glad you thought of me. It's been a real joy to be with you guys.
Yeah, it's been great.
My 9 o'clock is with AOC. I need to ask her about foreign policy. That's where I get my good ideas. So I don't want to be late for that.
That's great. All right. Well, tell him Mike said hi. Tell him Mike Vass said hi.
Oh yeah.
Well, I certainly will. I'll try to get her on your show.